Sometimes you just have to whistle a little bit to figure it out. You know, I used to whistle a lot, especially when I was younger. It sort of became a musical habit, I guess, just a part of me. It used to get me into a lot of hot water, though, early on, particularly with my father. He was a justice of the peace and a blacksmith, and, well, he tried his best to teach me the ways of his trade, but, well, one day when I was absent-mindedly whistling instead of paying attention to the hot iron I was drawing to forge nails, he said to me, "Son, you are no blacksmith. I will make you a musician." My name is Lem Wiley, but you can call me Lem. I don't understand why my folks decided to name their kid Lemon, but, well, Lem seemed friendly enough, so that's who I became. You can call me Lem. You know, I was far too much of a musician to ever become a good blacksmith, but I did have a little detour on my way to a musical life. That little diversion I think you would call the Civil War. People used to always ask me about that war, and, well, I'd regale them with tales of the horrible battles where I fought. Under the command of Peoria's local hero, General David Greer, the Illinois 77th was there when the Confederate cannons were firing down upon us from Chickasaw Bluff. And we were there at the first attack on Vicksburg, where we were repelled. But we were also there for the long siege of Vicksburg, when General Grant starved out those same Confederate officers. From there, we headed west to the Red River Campaign, but we met defeat and were pushed all the way back to the Mississippi. From there, we headed down south to New Orleans, across the Gulf of Mexico, and right into Mobile Bay. We captured Fort Gaines and Fort Morgan and opened a path right into Mobile, Alabama. We were actually in Mobile when we found out that our beloved President Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated. We were still there a few days later, camped just outside of town, when the ammo dump that was hidden in the Mobile cotton press exploded. The blast sent out a shockwave that lifted me 2 feet off of my knapsack. How any of us survived that war is quite simply a miracle. I was recruited to put together the regimental band. Throughout the war, I led the band that played the music to help buoy the morale and entertain the troops. Even in the face of that war, music still had a place to instill courage in the faint of heart, to honor the souls lost at the end of a battle, and just help remind us of what we were fighting for. Music was and is, I think, the key to a deeper sense of joy in the midst of dark times. Wouldn't you agree? After the war was over, we took that band on tour. We visited every town where a company, the Illinois 77th, had been organized. It was sort of our appreciation tour. I played cornet at the time, and over the years I learned several instruments, including the banjo. When the regimental tour was over, a fellow musician asked if I'd stay in Peoria. So I did, and I joined up with Spencer's band. I also worked for Nolte and Bacon. They were a musical seller in downtown Peoria. I was also, for a while, the manager of the Peoria Opera House. And that was one of the most glorious venues in all of Peoria's history. We had the largest stage, and we were the first to use a special new gas light called limelights. Through my connections, I brought several notable acts to Peoria. But my real passion was playing my own music. I loved helping people get the same sense of joy listening that I had while playing. It was during this time in Peoria that I also met and married Miss Alta E. Wilson. In July of 1872, we said I do, and we did. She stuck by me the rest of our days and put up with my life as an itinerant musician. We had our daughter within the year, little Mary. Poor, sweet Mary. She died as an infant, and Alta was never quite the same after that. But we had the music and each other to help soothe our saddened souls. I went back on the road with a number of bands, and later on joined a traveling show called Haverly's Mastodon Minstrels. I toured this country continuously for 12 years, 5 of them with the Mastodons. So, when the opportunity came to tour Europe, well, I jumped at the chance. We went all over that continent for 5 months, stopping at every venue who would just give us a booking. But we played some mighty big halls too, like Her Majesty's Theatre in London. That's right. Hobnob with the Queen in her court I did. A lot of yes, your majesties and no, your majesties. She was a fussy old broad. But when we got to play, oh, soon enough, she got a big smile on her face and she was clapping and singing along. See, whether you're a queen or a commoner, music has the power to bring the world together. After that, we had our little 2-week stint at the Queen's Theater. We headed home. Landed in New York and, well, we got to work right away on our East Coast tour. The highlight of that for me was we played at the inauguration of President Garfield. Ooh, been a while for that one. There was a strange sort of deja vu, though, when we were back in Washington less than a year later to also march in his funeral parade when he was assassinated. Life is strange sometimes. I also played the funeral of my commander and friend, General David Greer, right here at Springdale. Touring this country took up most of my life, but I managed to return to Peoria long enough to reconnect with my old buddies in Spencer's band, and together we played the dedication of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument at Peoria County Courthouse in 1899. That was a huge event, I tell you. President McKinley even made it out for that one. We had thousands of people flooding the streets of downtown Peoria, and Spencer's band and I, well, we filled the air with those old patriotic songs from those uncivil war. As a final act, through the political connections I had made and playing for presidents and rallies, I was offered the job as doorkeeper for the United States House of Representatives. That's right. And even later, I became the doorkeeper for the U.S. Senate as well. Not a bad way to finish out a life as an itinerant musician when my rollicking days of musical touring were over. I left this life in January of 1912, and I'm buried right over there by that little American flag, right next to Alta and Mary. My name is Lemon Hill Wiley, Colonel Lemon Hill Wiley, but I think all y'all could call me Lem. Thank you very much for listening. If you head on down that road a ways, I think there's some more stories out there for you to hear. Thank you.